it's such a frivolous bit of nonsense. But having nice toenails with nail art on one of the toenails at the moment, it gives, when I lie on my sunbed and look at my toenails, it gives me a little frisson of pleasure.
I know what you mean. I never used to get my feet out, and now I have my nails done, and I do like doing the same. So there we go.
Welcome to Own It, Your Business in Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. Good afternoon, how are you?
I'm good, and you?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you. Should we plunge straight in?
Yeah, we don't put video on, do we?
No, God, no, Jesus.
No. Oh, good. I can see your screen now. I always hear your momentum discussions, and I do like momentum myself.
Yes, it is. I'm pretty sure that this was yesterday's, though, so I don't think they've changed it very much.
Oh, I have a different one to you.
Yeah. I
think they personalise it, don't they?
They do, yes. And as you can see, it's 31 degrees in the house with the air conditioning on.
Oh, lovely.
So how, for the benefit of our listeners, I'm joined today by Jo Dodds, who is a very old friend of ours, and we've known you for years and years and years, and you're also a very loyal podcast listener, aren't you?
I am, yes. Although I'm really nervous about being on this, because I've been on a couple of podcasts with you, Nicola. I've never been nervous like this, because it's such a good one that I'm like, I've got to be, as scintillating as Judith, which is never going to happen, obviously.
No, you just have to be eccentric like Judith.
Yeah.
Now tell me, as I've got a captive person to ask, what do you like so much about it? What makes it good for you, so that we can, carry on being more, doing more of the same?
I love your mutual honesty. My favourite bits are when Judith's coaching you. She does make you squirm, and that makes me feel like I'm glad it's Nicola and not me.
Yeah.
I think it's really helpful. You're really topical, and I guess because we've got sort of similar interests and backgrounds, it really appeals to me as a small business owner.
Yeah, good.
From that point of view as well. But I love your personalities, and obviously because I know you as well, it sort of adds that extra something to it.
Philippe. Cool. Yeah, I mean, Judith is a brilliant coach. There's no doubt about it. And I always feel guilty, perhaps, for taking up my time. But if we, if listeners don't send in their challenges, then we sometimes get a little bit stuck. So I dredge up one of mine, and I think one of the ongoing things is that as an entrepreneur, you always have got ongoing challenges. You're always trying to make things better, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think as well, because you know each other so well and because you trust each other, it does make for a really good coaching session, because it's a real one. It's not put on for the recording, and it's not pussyfooting around. Not that Judith ever does that, mind you.
No, we used to call her the iron fist in a velvet glove. Yeah, you're right. And I hope that it makes a safe space for everyone, by being vulnerable and sharing my challenges. I think it makes it a safe space for everyone else to think, well, if she's still having challenges, then it's not so bad that I am. And I think that's really important, especially in podcasts and membership sites and group coaching programs particularly.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Tell us a bit about you very quickly, so that we know, and then we'll plunge into what's been happening in your week. But I'd like everyone to know who you are and where they can find you, and what do you do?
Cool. So I now work in two ways. I work with large companies around employee engagement as a consultant, trainer and speaker. And then with home-based business owners, I focus on productivity, organisation and well-being, and a bit of energy and resilience. That's my power in my company name, Power to Live More, and that's all about doing more of the things that you want to do. And I do that through working one-to-one as a coach, but also looking to launch a mastermind group in the autumn around that sort of stuff. So people can find me at powertolivemore.com. I'm on most social
media. That far too fast. Slow down, please. Say it again.
Yeah, I talk quickly. So powertolivemore.com is my main website. And most social media platforms. As you know, I specialised in social media a number of years ago, and prior to that I had a publishing business, and prior to that I was in corporate in HR. So a very eclectic background, and I think I've finally pulled it all together to the stuff that's the best for me.
It's a nice feeling, isn't it, when it finally feels right?
Yes, yeah.
I've been flapping about myself over the last couple of years, as you might notice. But with the new name for the membership site, I was never very happy with Inner Circle. It was always a little bit elitist sounding, but I couldn't think of anything better. And then it just came to me when I was doing the dishes the other day, because clicks and leads for the done for you and consultancy, and clicks and leads academy for the membership mentoring, which is it makes me feel so much more relaxed now. I've got a name for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It does make me laugh. That it is something I sort of identify with when I listen to you. It's about getting that sort of comfort, isn't it, with these sorts of things. I'm the same, and when I hear you, because you do often say something like you've just said, and I think, yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Well, let's crack on then. Let's talk about our weeks. What have you been up to this week?
Well, it's school holidays, so I have little Doddsy, who's now 11. She was 11 on Monday, so it's an interesting juggle, although she's away with Granny at the moment for 3 days, so I'm catching up a bit. I was also speaking at the weekend at Tom Poir's event.
Tell me about that, because I haven't seen Tom since the old internet the World Internet Summit days.
Yes, yeah. Well, I'm very good friends with Jason Buckner, his assistant, or who now actually has his own business and isn't his assistant as such. He supports him as a freelancer, and so I've sort of kept in touch with him over the years. And just knocked something on the floor. Sorry about that.
Pile of cash, isn't it?
And so about 3 years ago, I started helping out a bit with some of their customer support in the UK, and spoke about social media at Tom's boot camp. And now I do quite a bit more. So I was teaching the new customers how to use the system, which is very exciting this year, because it's got the ebook stuff that's always been around, but they've now got PLR rights to all of that, and also WordPress one-click installation against any of the ebooks that are on there. So that's quite exciting.
Okay. So he's been investing in software then?
He has, and then I was teaching the social media piece again, which is interesting because I don't teach social media anymore. So it's a good job I keep up with you, Nicola, so I can keep up with the latest developments. So,
oh my God, it's changing so fast! I can't believe it. It's really astonishing how quick it's changing now.
It is, and it was interesting. I was listening to your own podcast yesterday where you were talking about Judith talking about whether she needed a website or not, and you were saying you were traumatized that websites are not quite as they used to be, and I feel a bit like that too, especially since I've gone off social media quite a bit since moving on and doing other things. But as you say, interesting times as to how things sort of will develop, and the best route to get to people. As you were saying, website traffic and that sort of thing, is not like it used to be. Social media isn't how it used to be. You can be everywhere and you can build those relationships, but it's you've got to be, I think, a lot more strategic than 6 years ago or 7 years ago when no one was really on there. So it was very easy to stand out. You really have to think about
watching the teens has been, Judith, we had that conversation and it sort of coalesced into something that preyed on my mind the rest of the week. And what really did it, I've been since last March, I've been watching the teens, I've been listening to Gary Vaynerchuk, I'm really watching what my kids do, and they're 19 and 22, and you must be watching what little Doddsy does, and especially as she comes, gets old enough to get online. It'll be interesting for you to watch what she does.
Yeah.
The real clincher for me was when I realised that I'd met someone on a beach here, and she told me about Steve Bartlett, a social chain in Manchester, and I'd gone to YouTube to watch his videos, and I'd subscribed to him on YouTube, and I'd never actually visited his website in 3 months. And I thought, oh my God, I know everything about him. I know everything about his company. I know exactly what they would do, what they could do for me if I was a business hiring them. And I've never once been to his website.
Yeah. Well, I had my Jo Dodds social media website hacked in January, and I couldn't be bothered, couldn't bring myself to keep it going because I don't really do social media like I used to. So I thought, I'll do a new one under jododds.com, and it's been under maintenance ever since. and yet, I still have new clients and, stuff happening as a result of other activity. And I will get it there, because I think at the moment there's still a level of legitimacy that websites can give you. But as you say, I don't think they're the be all and end all at all.
No, I don't think from a marketing point of view they're bloody useful to have a place where in fact what I often do is buy a domain name, do WordPress install on it, and then bring in a lead page as the front page.
Yes.
I just can't be bothered to do, all the, the faffing about that you have to do with WordPress themes. It's just easier just to whack a lead page up with their plugin and just have that,
Yeah, I've done much the same with my Power to Live More site. I use Thrive themes, and that's a plugin that enables you to do lead pages type stuff, and that's what I've done with that. I didn't like the theme, and as you say, I couldn't be bothered to get another theme and try and work out how to make the front page look impressive. So I just used the software that I already knew, and there you go.
I must take a look at Thrive, because they've got Thrive quizzes as well now, which is supposed to be very good. But we're getting very technical already, and we are.
There's a surprise.
Judith will be listening, going, "Oh my God, they've gone right off track already."
Just before you move on, you must check out Thrive, because they're just relaunching their plugin, and it looks like it's going to be amazing. So it is a good time to be looking at it.
Yeah. Anything else about your week then, apart from going to Tom Hoire's event?
Well, when I was speaking, I had a really lovely man come up to me afterwards, and he said, this is a bit of stuff I don't normally share, things like that. He came up and he was right in the front row, and he said, "You've got a really lovely face." And I was like,
"Oh my God, how weird."
I know. And I went, "Thank you." And he went, "And I think your personality matches your face." And I was like, "Oh." But then he said, "But I've got no idea what you're talking about," because I was obviously being a bit technical. He said, "I've got no idea what you're talking about. So it's just as well that you've got a nice face to look at while you're talking." And I thought, was that one of those compliments that didn't turn into one? Following the man in the lift that had seen my speaker shoes, my nice red Dorothy, ruby slippers, as Judith called them, who'd said, "You remind me of Theresa May." So I wasn't really doing that well on compliments.
That's a backhanded compliment if it was one. She's not the most attractive woman. She's got a very peaky, pointy look about her, I think.
Exactly, but apparently a good taste in shoes, which is, I think, what the point he was trying to make. But anyway.
Well, I went to an 80th birthday party, which actually you wouldn't think was a lot of fun, but it actually was brilliant. And it was the most beautiful view. I mean, I went to it's a taverna in the next village, and the views here are amazing. You just look up sometimes and it catches your breath, it really does. But this was drop dead gorgeous, this view, right on the sea. And there was about 40 people there. And actually, if you're a subscriber of my weekly V-zine, you'll actually see the views in this one that's coming out this weekend. It's lovely, and it was great. There was all my creative writing group there, all their husbands, all the miscellaneous odd bods from Stupa, and we had a lovely time. It was 1:30 to 6:30, so I came home and watched Poldark afterwards. It was a perfect day.
Do you know what I find really interesting, Nicola, since you've moved to Greece, is how you are really enjoying all these social occasions that you probably would have avoided in the past.
Well, it's not that I wouldn't have avoided them, it's that I wouldn't have been invited to them, because in England people do not socialise as much as they do here. I think I can't work it out. I think it's a combination of the fact we're all outdoors all the time, and we're all in a limited number of tavernas, so you see people all the time, and so you get invited to things quite casually. And the other thing is that there is, because a lot of the people here are retired, they've got a lot of time on their hands, so they actually do spend quite a lot of their time doing hobbies and creating social events. I mean, in Shoreham, I mean, it's not, everyone thought I was a recluse, but it wasn't a recluse. I never got invited anywhere.
Oh, that explains it then.
Yeah, I mean, the kids used to invite me down the pub, and obviously when Steve was alive, we used to go out a lot playing poker and, to Goodwood and things like that. And I used to go around there all the time. He'd come to mine. But once he died, I just realised how locked up in our houses we are in England.
Yes.
And once I got over the whole, it took 18 months or so, but as they say it does, and it did, I was ready to ready to socialise a lot more here, and it's just lovely. I mean, even last night I went to have a little dinner in not a proper taverna, it's sort of more like a fast food joint, but all the food's completely fresh, and it's lovely, and it's always ram-jammed with young Greeks, which is a lovely atmosphere. And someone I knew's husband walked over and he said, "I'm just getting a takeaway, I'll sit and have a beer with you while you if you don't mind." And it really it's that sociable, if someone's there, they'll come and talk.
I think that is the other thing, though. I think you made that comment perhaps on your podcast, that people are more sociable. And I think, you going out for dinner on your own in Greece sounds like more of a new thing and something that you perhaps wouldn't have done in Shoreham. And I think, that's the same here. I don't think I'd go out on my own, but I do, know quite a lot of people locally.
You're sort of forced, Jo. I live up a hill, and once you walk down that hill to the beach, you are not coming back again until the sun goes down, because it's too hot to walk up. Even walking up in the night time is hot. So once you're down there, you then have got and I do try to go down every day because it gives me a walk, but then I'm sort of stuck till at least 10 o'clock, so I have to have some dinner.
That's the best argument I've ever heard for staying out.
And dinner only costs sort of €10, so it's almost cheaper to eat out than it is to go to the supermarket all the time.
Yeah,
and cook. And I mean, the other night I stayed in and cooked on Monday. Was it Monday? And I'm not joking. It was hot. I mean, it must have been 38 degrees in here. It was, I'm trying not to use the aircon too much because I don't like it, and B, it's going to be expensive. But but
then you had to wash up as well. I don't know. You must go out.
Exactly.
Not to like.
Exactly. Anyway, we must press on. The other thing I've done this week is I'm working for a world-class DJ, which is through a client of mine who's a friend of his, and I've never seen, unbelievable enthusiasm, Facebook ads. It's like I had another client that was in the psychic space, and completely unbelievably cheap clicks and leads. I've never seen anything like it. And this chap, this DJ, global audience, absolutely, he's adding thousands of likes to his page every day for pennies. I've never seen anything like it. It's obviously, once you get outside the internet marketing space or the business owner space, there is huge amounts of traffic to be had. So that's been very interesting.
Yeah.
What's fueled your fire this week then?
Well, still on the music theme, actually. So about a week ago, we had a choral group called the Spooky Men come to Hythe, where we live. Have you ever heard of the Spooky Men? So they are an Australian choral group, and they when they're in the UK, they have their own sort of UK versions, so that they don't have people, having to travel over. But the guy who runs it is from over there. And they were performing in Margate on one night, and then 2 nights later they were performing in London. And somebody in Hythe was on their mailing list, and they said, if you can find us an interesting venue for the middle night, we'll come and perform wherever that might be. And so she said, how about the Tin Tabernacle that we have in our town? And they said, yeah, okay then. And then they said, well, we need accommodation. So she put something out on the local Facebook group about, did anyone fancy putting up a spooky man like you do? And little Dodsy's first comment to me was, don't even think about it, mummy, because she knows what I'm like. So as it turned out, we had 3 spooky men, or rather 2 spooky men and 1 spooky woman, and got tickets to the concert and everything. And we went, and the concert was amazing. They basically sing very sort of a bit like sort of plain song, like in the monasteries, that sort of style, but they're all funny songs. So there's something on YouTube where they say they're about to sing a Norse folk song, and they've all got Norse hats on with bone sticky up bits and all that sort of stuff, and they start singing, and then halfway through you realise it's actually ABBA's Dancing Queen.
Oh, how funny.
And they do a particularly good one that they did at the thing, which is something like the Affirmations of St. Kevin, which I would absolutely recommend Googling because it's hilarious. And they did that for us. And then we went to the pub afterwards. They sang at the end of the pub as it was closing. And then the next day, having had a lovely evening chatting with our new friends, they said they had to have a meeting when we dropped them off. And they said all the hosts must get in the middle. So we got in the middle of this meeting, and I'm thinking this is a bit odd. And then they just sang to us, like a song about, I don't know, had to lay my head down, have some sleep or whatever. And it was just amazing. And it reminded me of the concept of building this fan base where there's a real community. I don't know if you've ever followed Amanda Palmer at all, who's married to Neil Gaiman, and she gives her music away, but she makes her money through Patreon. So her fans pay her to keep doing what she does, but she doesn't charge them for her music. And when she tours, or I don't know if she does that now, but certainly in the past, when she's toured with her bandmates, they've literally stayed at people's houses the world over. And she's got an amazing TED talk about that whole concept, and I just loved it, and hope they'll come back because it was brilliant. all round.
It sounds great fun. I mean, there's something very magical about the human voice, isn't there? Especially when, my sister used to be in the Swingle Singers, and they were a cappella group.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something when it's been trained and honed and practiced, and the 10,000 hours thing.
Yes.
It's spine tingling, isn't it? When you hear someone with a great voice, it's amazing. So I've been busy this week with my new Clicks and Leads Academy, newly renamed. I've been tweaking the interior, and it's really got me going because I've added a private coaching area. I didn't realize this was possible, but I saw that one of my mentors had one, so I talked to my tech guy, and he's given me an area where if something's a bit too a bit too sensitive, they don't want to put it in the public forum to get help with, they can now put it in their private coaching area, which is really very cool indeed. Now I'm going to have to really strenuously encourage people not to put everything in there, because otherwise we take away the element of people learning from other people. But it's going to be great, and I'm really thrilled with it because it means I can actually offer private coaching for such an affordable rate.
So is the intention that people will do that over and above what they're doing currently and you'll charge them extra, or will it be... No,
I'm not going to charge extra. I want to make this the best value internet marketing mentoring site in England, in Europe, in fact. And I want to keep it it's $79 a month, which is peanuts, it's coffee a day money. But that's the other thing, I've made a brave decision to go over to annual membership, because again, Judith's been talking about it, one of my mentors has been talking about it, and the concept is that you give people a discount on what they pay if they were paying monthly, but it gets the commitment out of them to actually work with you for a longer period of time. And in a membership site, what happens, people, I don't know if you've got one, but people pop up and they're all enthusiastic the first week or so, and then they realise that there's no magic bullets in there, that they're going to have to actually do some work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So honestly, I don't know what people expect. I really don't. But the point is that if they come in and they're there for a year, it gives you more time to work with them, and it gives them more time to have those ups and down periods. Like everyone's had August off or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Kids, so it means that you have more time to get a result with people. So I've changed. I use what do I use? I use Deadline Funnel, which switches your membership on and off and turns your page from join the VIP waiting list to open now, join now kind of thing. And it also sends out follow-up emails that are all coordinated. Yeah, it's a very nice bit of kit, Deadline Funnel, and it just means that people are more likely to take action because they know that it's not always open.
Yes, yeah, no, it's interesting. I do have a membership site that I haven't done very much with as yet, but have done over the years. And as you say, people, particularly with a monthly commitment, once they stop committing to themselves, they then stop paying you, don't they? Which is frustrating. But it's interesting. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I'm just trying to remember which one it was. And it was a couple who were talking particularly about getting commitment to taking action, and they were saying that their membership, they get something like 97% completion on what they're offering, as does Seth Godin on, you've probably heard, he's promoting his MBA program. I don't know.
No, I haven't, no.
Seems every podcast I listen to is promoting it at the moment, and he gets a really high completion rate as well. And they were saying, but in the main, most of the rest of them don't. And, I don't think that's a surprise to us, is it? No. And they were talking about how important accountability is. And that was what the whole podcast was about. It wasn't about, how to get people enthused or to join your membership or anything else. It was literally about, how do you get that accountability? Because that's the bit that really drives people through to take action. And I do think a lot of sort of people selling stuff online, I think, you'd agree from our background, speaking years ago, that, there's a focus on getting the sale and then not worrying so much whether people actually take any action afterwards. And that doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, I really care about that. I mean, yes. You've probably heard Judith and I talking about it a while ago.
Did, yeah.
I use Intercom.io, which is a really nice, it's a chat software, so people come to your site and they can chat with you if you're around, or they can leave a message. But it also tells you when you also put it in your app and in your membership site, and it tells you when people are slipping away. So it tells you when people haven't visited the membership site for a while, because a lot of times people just visit and they read what everyone else is up to and they get their little hit of motivation and then they go away again. But I actually get an email from Intercom that tells me when someone hasn't visited for a while, and I can email them directly and say, we're missing you over there. And it definitely reactivates people. It's really,
It's interesting. I'm in a sort of group or a collaboration with Wendy Keir.
Oh yeah, I know Wendy. Yeah, she does.
Yeah, I knew you did. Yeah, the Virtual Speaking Pro, and we have a membership site for that. And it's interesting how people come in and say, "Oh, it's not quite what I expected. You know, I think I'm going to cancel." And then Wendy goes and looks, and they've not actually been on the site or looked at anything. Oh. And then she encourages them to do that. And then all of a sudden they come back going, "Oh, I found this, and this is good. And oh yeah, I'm reconsidering my decision." And it's really interesting how people pay for something, don't look at it, and then decide to sort of divest themselves of things they're not actually doing without even seeing the value of what they're doing.
I was listening to someone talking about lead pages today. They were saying they've had it for nearly a year, and they paid for a year to get a deal, and they haven't even looked at setting anything up yet, and the year's nearly up. Yeah. And I've got this theory that actually the act of buying something makes people feel like they've done something.
Ah, well, that's interesting, because there's a theory around accountability, and it's always been said that you should tell people what your aims and your goals are and share with people so that they hold you accountable. That's quite an oft said thing, but actually there's a train of thought which is that by saying it, you've sort of said that almost that you've done it, so you don't get on and do it. And the example is a bit like you've just said, and the example that was used was around, if you say you're going to run a marathon, you get so much kudos from people about the idea of you running it that actually there's not that much sort of motivation to run it at the end, because you've had all the sort of adulation for the fact that you even said you were going to do it in the first place. And I think that's what you've just said. It's interesting that buying something makes you think you've got your value from it because you've done something, you've taken some action, but actually it's the next bit that's the important bit, isn't it?
Is, yeah. And I think it was Anita Roddick that said this earlier. She said, don't tell anyone your hopes and dreams, because A, they'll trample all over it, and B, it'll make you feel like you've already done it.
Yes.
Talking of virtual summits, I managed to do the horrendous amount of work that was getting our, the 18 speakers from our Own It Summit up as a virtual summit. And again, so lovely software, EverWebinar. Basically I can have a virtual summit running every weekend. So it's like, and oh my God, it was horrendous, because I had to do about 5 different processes to get these things ready to use, but on 18 speakers. So everything it was just horrendous. I really had to push through it. But I had a great big tick list going as well, because my brains just can't cope with that sort of stuff. But now it's there. I was thinking it's like having 18 people working for me every weekend without me having to be there.
Yes, yeah. So how does that work for people who see it one weekend and then don't bother listening to it? Can they come back the next weekend?
Well, if they register for a session, they get 48 hours to listen to the recording afterwards. If they don't turn up live. Yeah. And I think that's only fair. And then they obviously can buy the recordings. They get offered the recordings, and you don't advertise the summit to anyone who's visited the registration page before.
Right.
So you're always showing to new people and people who've never been there. And I'm getting, one of my interest groups on the Facebook ads is getting clicks for 7p, which is, again, it's astonishingly low. It's a great big broad interest group of expats. And I'm not convinced they're going to, turn into registrations, but at 7p a click, you can afford to run enough traffic at it to really get a good idea of whether they're going to turn into registrations or not.
Yeah.
So, there we go. Would you like to showcase your business, product or service to highly engaged solopreneurs and business owners every week? We can offer a 30-second mid-roll slot and sponsorship branding on our website and in our private Facebook group. Just contact Nicola at nicolacairncross.com for more details. Client Challenge of the Week then. Look at that, right nearly on the half hour. You're bringing the Client Challenge of the Week. What have you got for me?
So something that's quite close to both of us, I think, which is about getting everything done whilst living more, which is sort of what I talk about in my business. But also you and I have both changed our lives and business quite considerably over recent years in terms of sort of with a catalyst of death. So obviously your situation with Steve, and my mum and her partner and my father-in-law all died of cancer in the last 5 years, and it really made me stop short and stop doing so much work, and really made me start to think about how to get done what I needed to get done to get the success that I need without actually spending all my life working. And I think you've sort of cracked it. And I'm sort of getting there. So how can people think about, without needing the death? So I don't think we want people to need that. How can people, do the right things so that they then have the success they need to be able to spend more time doing the things they want to do and not just caught up in, working all the time?
Yeah. My problem with that was that I love what I do. And when I was in Shoreham, I didn't have anything else to do that I enjoyed. Yeah. So it was only by moving to Stupa, which was the place I'd wanted to come and live, for 25 years. I'm not saying I'm going to stay here forever, but I'm certainly going to keep a little house here, because it is so inexpensive to do that. But I had no reason in Shoreham, apart from going out to dinner with the kids or, going to the pictures occasionally or seeing my family. I had no reason to stop working, and I enjoy working. It was like I would be doing it as a hobby if I had a proper job. So I actually enjoy the processes of it. So that was why. But coming here, I've got something to close the computer for. And I don't know why going down the beach and swimming and lying on a sunbed and reading thrillers is so, because that really is all I'm doing.
Sounds great to me.
and go, and chatting and having a laugh with people and everything. And I've taken up some hobbies, which, really I ought to pay more attention to, like learning Greek and creative writing. But it's because it's sunny here. I like to walk out the door. So what I've done is I've changed my environment to force me into a situation that is Thomas Leonard used to talk a lot about this. He used to say, if you want to achieve something, change your environment and make it, what's the word I'm looking for? An environment that expedites the outcome that you're looking for. And being somewhere where every single morning you wake up and it's sunny and hot, from March to November, that gives me the secure. I was thinking about it on the way home actually last night. It gives me the unchanging environment that I like. I like waking up and knowing it's going to be sunny. I don't like in England where you can't make plans. You never know what to wear. You're always being caught out. And you make plans and you can't do them, and everything has to be done inside. It's not a lifestyle I wanted. So so I sort of forced myself into a situation where I had something to close the computer for.
Yeah, and I think changing your environment is. I've lived here for 15 years now, the longest I've ever lived anywhere in my life. But I have changed how I live my life in recent years, and that was by thinking about what environment I wanted. So it wasn't the place that I lived, and it certainly isn't sunny all the time. Quite often in the south of England on the coast, as you know.
I've got kids, and I stayed in England all the time I had kids. And then when they grow up, and it was like a double whammy, really. I was an empty nester and bereaved. And I've got to say, I'm so sorry for your losses, but there is nothing like that to focus your mind on how can I enjoy every moment that I've got, because once you're gone as far as we know, and I'm looking forward to seeing if anything is next. But not so much I want to go now, but yeah, it really does focus your mind quite wonderfully. And I had never really lost anyone. I mean, my nan and granddad died when I was young. I think I was about 18 or 19, but I'd had the kids by then, so my focus was on the kids. But when you lose someone who's very close to you, it focuses your mind quite wonderfully on trying to live every moment, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and I think that is it. It's the environment, but it's also that the here and now. And I think my father-in-law spent most of his working life looking forward to his retirement, ready for all the things he was going to do, and he had time. And he has two, an aunt and an uncle who are 102. Wow. So he thought he was going to be around for, ever. And he died when he was 71 or 72 or something. And people who spend a lot of their time, looking forward to whatever's going to happen at the end of it, that's, I think, where it sort of all goes wrong. And I guess when I used to work far too many hours and everything else, I enjoyed it like you did as well. But I sort of was I don't know, I was caught up in it thinking it was leading me somewhere. And actually when you realise that you've got to have that somewhere now, what does that now look like? That's when you change your environment, as I say, not necessarily to a different country, but just what should, what do I want it to look like? And then how do I make everything fit with it? And it's not easy. I mean, I a couple of weeks ago realised that I'd said yes to doing a load of things that at the time seemed like the right thing to do, but actually were getting in the way of me doing the things that I want to do. And I had to go around saying, I've changed my mind. I don't want to do that anymore. Thank you. It's the time's gone to change. A lot of
people are not brave enough to go and say, I've changed my mind, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I was upset. I was feeling tearful because I was doing things that I enjoyed, but they weren't actually part of this bigger picture that I've sort of worked on in the last few years. And so it's interesting, even when you do focus, how much you do end up still doing things because you think you should, or because you said yes and it was easier than saying no. But I like the idea, or I'm interested in the fact that you're doing your hobbies now, because again, why would you not do hobbies when you're in Shoreham, and now you are? And again, as you said, because it's sunny and it's more sociable and everything else. But do you think you've made space for stuff to come in that you're interested in?
I think you have to make enough space that you get bored. It was only, and to be honest, the hobbies are easy. They're just down the hill. I'm a lazy person, Jo. I work, my brain isn't lazy, but I'm a physically lazy person. And it's just, that's why I love living in a small village. Everything's within easy reach, Right Club is at someone's house, and if you can't walk there, someone will come and get you. It's, the sea's just down the road, the taverna's just down the road, everything's here. And, so yes, I had to get to the point where I was bored enough to want to do creative stuff that wasn't on the computer.
Yeah.
And I did work, a lot of the winter I worked because I was restructuring everything and redoing everything. But now I think I'm there. I think I've got what I want to do for the rest of my life now. Mind you, I have famous last words said that before. And there is something to shut the computer for. I get quite twitchy now if a client wants to talk to me after 2:00 in the afternoon, because that's my psychological time where I stop and go down the hill.
Yes, Tom's traumatising me completely because he keeps doing things at weekends, and I don't work weekends anymore. But needs must. But,
absolutely, yes. It is a difficult one. And I read something the other day that said we live until we wake up, which is what you and I have done, and we've been forced to wake up by circumstances. You tend to defer your present to live in the future.
Yeah.
And I think, was it Gary Vaynerchuk? No, hang on a second. It was someone on Medium, and I'm going to find it and put it in the show, give it to Judith to put in the show notes, because it was a very powerful bit of writing. Oh, Dan Norris, I think. About Dan Norris, right. Go to Medium and search Dan Norris, happiness. And he talks about how in his teens and his 20s, he was so desperately unhappy, always living in the future, always striving, always looking forward. And what you do is you defer your present happiness for the promise of future happiness.
Yeah.
And it's just until something happens to wake you up from that. It's just how we're brought up to be, and I actually really get quite angry now thinking about how the brainwashing that goes on in our school system.
Yeah,
actually quite angry. I'm very lucky that the kids have grown up not feeling like I did, that I had to strive and work and do all that.
Lucky, and also you parented them well. I mean, it's not a surprise that they're as entrepreneurial as they are, and off feeling confident doing the things that they want to do. I mean, let's not play down your parenting skills then.
Well, that's very sweet of you. I mean, I largely showed them and then let them make their own mind up. And I've got to tell you, the best thing for both of them was sending them out. They got to 16, and I said, right, that's it. Your allowance stops now unless you go and get a job. So basically, I carried on paying their allowance all the time they were in employment. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to encourage them to go and get minimum wage jobs, which is all they can get at 16. And they both really enjoyed it. They worked in a gastropub for years, but they really realised that what they wanted a bit more out of their life than that, because they hadn't gone to university and college. And they did go to college, but they didn't go to university, so they weren't following traditional academic paths.
Yeah, so
I knew I had to jolt them into thinking about other ways of making a living, and that was the way I did it, and it's worked. But they're both very comfortable taking downtime.
I've learned that too.
Getting out of bed before lunchtimes at most, after they've been out on a night out, but. Phoebe's taking 4 days off to go to this thing called Boomtown, which is a bit like Glastonbury but more fun. You
sounds like the Boomtown Rats. That doesn't sound very modern.
No, I know. That's our first association, isn't it?
Yeah.
So she's taking. I mean, she's worked all her work because she works for this this business coach as this video and social media person, and then my stuff. She does my stuff as well, and she's worked it all round so she can have 4 days off and everything's pre-scheduled to go out. So she's perfectly focused on having a lovely lot of downtime as well.
Lovely.
So what do you do? Now you don't work at weekends apart from when you're doing stuff with Tom. I mean, have you taken up hobbies or?
Well, I years ago decided that I needed to do some sort of mindfulness type stuff, and of course, yoga and meditation is all the rage, isn't it? And I hate the idea of either of those things. But I read an article that said that singing was as good as either of those things for mindfulness. So I joined a choral society, and that's part of my trauma now. I'm the secretary of the flipping thing. You know what I'm like.
Oh.
But it's just been brilliant. And when I sang at school, and I've always been musical, I play various instruments and stuff, but I hadn't done any formal singing since I was at school. And we sing, sort of big classical works. And then we've got a new musical director. So my recruitment skills came to the fore a few months ago, and he's really sort of exciting. And I mean, our previous musical director was lovely, but he'd been with us 40 years, so things ticked along. So as a result of our new musical director, I sang at Arundel Cathedral.
Wow.
We did the Verdi Requiem with a 75 strong professional orchestra and soloists to raise money for the hospices, so we raised $8,000. And in a couple of weeks, I'm off to Peterborough Cathedral, and then the following weekend to Wells Cathedral to do a residency there with about 30 other singers. And it's just brilliant. So yeah, I do that, and I'm in another choral society because why do one when you can do two? And playing the piano a lot more than I did, and just spending more time with Ellie, particularly with little Doddsy. I used to be the one that didn't go to family things because I was too busy, and they'd all go off and do fun things, and I wasn't there. And I make sure I am, very much so now.
Yeah, I remember I don't believe in regrets, but I do remember that the one thing I wish I'd learned earlier was how to be more present when the kids were little, because I was always worrying about what I should be doing to try and earn some money.
Yeah.
And because I was sort of the main earner for a while, and then, when you're working, you're constantly being pulled away. I wish I'd learned that skill of how to be more present in the moment earlier.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I certainly, I do, when we're doing stuff, I do quite often just stop and look around me and try and take a sort of mental picture of what it looks like and how it feels, so that I know that I've really experienced it in the moment, rather than anticipating it and then remembering it, but not actually really getting it while it's happening.
Yeah, try and enjoy it before you take the Snapchat.
Yeah, I don't do Snapchat. That's one of my things. I only do the things you want to do, so I don't do Snapchat.
No, good stuff. All right. So to recap then, we think that it would be ideal if people could learn to live in the moment and be more mindful. It would be great if people could be present with their work when they're working and present with their family when they're not. Mm-hmm. And you hopefully won't need a bereavement to learn all this. But I think the other thing is, it's all about happiness, isn't it? People want to be happy, and you've got to work out what makes you happy. And for a while, it was working for me, and now it's not. So, yeah, definitely, it's about working out what you want to be doing, and then aligning everything to that in whatever shape that takes, and with potentially difficult conversations if necessary, as we've said, saying no to things or not saying yes because you do and you always have done, sort of thing. Yeah, not being roped in by people who are looking for someone who will step up and take the responsibility. Exactly. And the other thing is, I enjoy things like having my hair done and having my feet pedicured, and so I'm trying to do that and not feel guilty about it, because it's such a frivolous bit of nonsense. But having nice toenails with nail art on one of the toenails at the moment. It gives, when I lie on my sunbed and look at my toenails, it gives me a little frisson of pleasure.
I know what you mean. I never used to get my feet out, and now I have my nails done, and I do like doing the same. So there we go. I've always said we've got things in common.
And the wonderful thing is that and also just reading thrillers on the sun, it's just and then swimming about and then coming back to my thriller again. It's trying to find little pleasures, isn't it? It's not about Maseratis or fancy houses. I mean, I've got a beautiful little 2-bedroom house here that I look around and I think, the people who rented it to me, they left just enough. Everything is just enough here. It's like a little starter home, and they've even left things like lovely glass things on the walls and things. So I don't even have to think about interior design. Not one of my strengths. And I just feel so lucky. And when you feel lucky, and you've got beauty to look at, that for me makes me feel happy.
Yeah, we're on to gratitude now, aren't we?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that is the true secret of happiness. That is.
Yeah.
Mindfulness and gratitude is definitely the thing. And I think what it also does from a business perspective is it makes you feel good, so you project well. I mean, anyone watching my V-zines in January, I was still really in the throes of grief, and it's only really started to ease off about April or May. That's the 18 months thing, isn't it? But anyone looking at it would see that I was still quite sad, and I did a good job of projecting animation, but I don't think it reached my eyes a lot of the time. So I think it's very important to find a way to be happy before you're successful, because it actually helps you become more successful, because you project calm and groundedness and a lack of need. And so it really is very important to master the feeling, the happiness that you think you're going to get when you're successful before you are, and then it helps you get there.
Yeah, agree.
Good stuff. Good. I'm glad we spun that one back to business. Right, good stuff. So what's your word of the week then?
I'm sure it's one that's been used before, but it's sharing, which is also one of my 5 fundamentals for how to live more, but has popped up this week for a number of reasons. So I have a business friend I've known for many years coming on board with me in a big contract that I'm just starting to run a workshop with me, and we're now thinking about developing a new product together. So the fun of sort of sharing some business stuff with somebody, being on the podcast with you're sharing your podcast with me, which is great. Had a drink with a friend last night to catch up, and just had a lovely chat. And also Judith has started a little book club as a result of the Not the Booker book list, and I've said I'm doing that, so I just started reading the first book, and we've got a little Facebook group to have discussions and share our thoughts on the book. So very much a sharing sort of week this week, and I'm feeling quite happy about all of those things.
Well, because sharing makes you feel connected to people, doesn't it? Yes. It's nice. Yeah,
exactly.
Lovely.
What about you?
Well, I'm not sure if, in 2 years of podcasts we've had this one before, but it's commitment. Me to my members, and I feel very happy about that. And that was a big commitment to me to open up that private coaching area thing, because, without starting a new membership level for it. But I just thought, if I can have 200 people paying $79 a month, or, saving money by buying an annual membership, and I just devote myself to them, and they commit to their own success, and I commit to them, then it would just be a really wonderful thing. And interestingly, since I've opened that, that I didn't sort of announce it or anything, but 3 people have joined. So, my mental commitment to the whole thing has attracted new members already.
Yes.
There's one guy who's actually selling things from his garage to drum up the membership fee for the year. He's selling old stuff that's been lurking about in his garage. So,
lovely.
Yeah, really nice. Yeah. So he's committed to find the investment to join, which is nice.
Yes. Yeah. Good. I like that one.
Project updates then.
So I mentioned I'm launching a mastermind group in September, and I half started the sales page ages ago, and then lots of other things came in. This contract I mentioned, and sort of other work.
In sales pages.
Oh, so do I. And so then I went through the whole thing. Well, maybe I don't need a big one. Maybe it doesn't need to be a long one. Maybe it just needs to be conversations with people, and then just a very short one that they can click on to actually join up. And I thought, maybe I'll do that. But I am going back to look at that this week, because I do need to get on with it. I'm not going to get anyone in it, am I, if I don't tell anybody about it? And I have been talking about it for weeks. So September's coming. I think it'll be more like a late September, because back to school and everything, a lot of people, that don't have children go off on holiday and things, don't they? So think sort of in the run up to Christmas, and with very much a focus on that whole accountability piece that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, it's weird about sales pages. I mean, I've got I use a lead page template that just helps me set out, the basics of what because some people do need to be able to see something before they can then click the button to join, and they need to see, but people have questions. I never make buying decisions based on lots of detail. I just have an instinctive yes or no.
And scroll to the bottom. That's what I do.
Exactly, yeah. But I know that there are lots of people who do have, they want to know the ins and outs of a cat's what's-it before they make a decision, a purchasing decision. And so we have to cater for everyone, don't we?
Yeah.
The other thing is, of course, is to try, before you put lots of effort into a sales page, the thing I like to do is have a webinar. And I've got a structure of slides that, helps you structure an offer in a webinar and overcome, not overcome objections, but address objections before you even get to the purchasing thing. So I'll often run a webinar first, and if people buy from the webinar, then I'll go on to make a sales page.
Yes, yeah. Well, I've been speaking locally and been talking to people one-to-one and had some interest for a face-to-face group. So I thought I might kick off with that one, because then that will help me to shape it with, real people that I know already. Which will really inform.
That's horrendous. Real people in a room all together. Jesus.
There's only going to be 6 of them. It'll be fine. It's very. I'm very excited, but the intention is not to do it face to face. Normally, can't be doing that leaving the house thing if I don't have to.
Good stuff. So, I suppose I ought to report on the podcast.
Yes.
Anything else about your thing before we move on?
No, that's fine.
Good. Yeah, we've got, because I've been tweaking the SEO in the title, because you probably heard that, iTunes now only pays attention to the title of your podcast, so you have to put your search words in that. And I can definitely see a 1 month is definitely up. So it's the upward trend. We're getting solid downloads every day now, as well as the spikes at the weekend. But we have slipped out of the What's Hot chart, which is, I don't know why I care so much about that. We've sat in there for ages. I've known the algorithm was going to change, and I know the only reason we haven't moved in the What's Hot chart, it hadn't changed. But getting reviews is such hard work. People just, I don't know why they don't want to give reviews. There's, hundreds of people listening to this, and there's a little video on the Own It, the podcast, every single episode that shows you how to do it. But it would make a major difference if we could get some more reviews. But we have been approached by a guy who fixes up sponsorship for podcasts. And he's actually listened to the show, and he's made it's not so much that they're going to give us cash to sponsor something. He's runs a bunch of, they're sort of like super affiliate networks, but it's invitation only. So I've joined, and we can now offer our listeners special deals on certain things. So I just need the time really to go and check out what I think would suit our listeners and what they might be interested in, and then we can offer you, special deals, which will be nice and will help to offset some of the expenses of the podcast.
Yeah. Have you looked at Patreon as an option?
Oh, we tried it. Didn't work. Only one person sponsored us. Thanks, Irene.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah. It's interesting with the podcast reviews, because I don't generally do them, and I massively listen to podcasts, and I'm a big fan of lots of them, but I haven't reviewed most of them. In fact, I'm not even sure if I've reviewed this one. I must go and have a look. I'm never an episode. They don't make it that easy. I mean, if you could do it on your podcast app on your phone there and then, I'd be much more likely to do it. But it's just such a faff, I think, really, even if you know what you're doing.
I don't know if you can. I think it's just that you don't think about it. I mean, I watched, Casey Neistat did a video blog a day for about a year, and I discovered him, and I spent quite a lot of time in it because I couldn't sleep very well over the winter, and I spent quite a lot of time watching his 10-minute videos because they just run onto each other, and I didn't think to like or subscribe to any of it.
Yeah.
So, on each platform's got its own oxygen, if you like, and on YouTube the oxygen is likes, and on iTunes the oxygen is reviews, and but I hadn't even thought to like Casey's videos, even though I was absolutely loving them and commenting, but I just wasn't liking them. So I think that's the thing. So I've got to sort out the sponsorship for the podcast, and that'll be good then. Right, so who or what's impressed this week?
Well, I talked about having a conversation with my business friend yesterday, and we actually went out for a quick bite to eat at a restaurant on the seafront in Hythe, where I live. And the lady, or the girl, 25 she was, I think, behind the bar was just lovely. And it was really funny because we're both business people and both appreciative of, you know, good personalities and businessy type things. We were just hilarious because she was like really personable, and she was a little bit flirty. You know, we were there, male and female sort of thing. So she was a bit flirty, a bit chatty, you know, very open, honest. And we got talking about, you know, what she wanted to do with her life. And she was telling us that she wanted to perhaps open her own pub or bar. And, you know, we were saying, well, the pub industry's, you know, dying in the UK. And she's going, oh, I quite like the idea of working abroad. And, you know, he was saying he spends a lot of time away, and he was saying, oh, you know, there's always bars where I am where they're always looking for people to do seasons. Why don't you, you know, think about doing that? And then she came off a bit later and she went, you know, I hope you don't mind, can I ask you a bit more about what we were just talking about? And she was just so lovely. And I just thought it's so nice to see somebody who's got ideas and confidence, but also openness to have that sort of conversation and share, to use that word again, with sort of complete strangers who clearly were enthusiastic for her and her ideas. I mean, I guess it probably says as much about us two as it did about her, but, you know, I just thought she was just amazing. And you know, he said to her, hope they're paying you a lot, because they won't be paying you enough, and you should go elsewhere, or know that you can go elsewhere because you're really good.
Yeah,
so they've probably lost an employee this morning.
There's one of the chaps down at one of our tavernas locally. He's like a breath of fresh air. You know, I think it's an energetic thing, isn't it? Energy levels, and like you say, you know, he's very open, he's very enthusiastic, he's very interested, and it makes it a real pleasure to go somewhere when there's someone like that behind the bar or serving, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah,
marvelous. I call them live ones.
Yes,
there's a live one over there.
I always imagine Phoebe was like that when you used to talk about her in the pub. So
yeah, I'm not convinced she was. I think she was a bit more of a bit more surly.
Oh, well, I'll maintain my view. So I won't think about the reality then.
Oh, bless her. But you know, I've been impressed by a lady called Laura Roeder today, which is R-O-D-E-R, and she's the founder, very young founder of Meet Edgar.
Meet Edgar, yeah, absolutely.
And she is, in 2 years, she's taken that company to 4 million in turnover, and she there's a video going around, which I will supply to Judith the link for, where she talks about how she turned software as a service marketing on its head by doing something fairly radical, which was putting an opt-in box on the front page. So she uses direct marketing and internet marketing skills to make her software as a service grow dramatically. And she's famous for saying, you know, she sold her own itch, didn't she? Scratched her own itch. Absolutely.
I was going to say, she was a sort of a bit you and me years ago. You know, she was a social media consultant in the early days, and as you say, had the issue, and that's where Meet Edgar came from. And I always thought it was interesting how expensive that was at launch. So I didn't use it for ages because it wasn't, you know, the others were all free, weren't they? And hers was just, it's this much and you pay it.
It is absolutely brilliant software. But the reason I stopped using it, and this is something that they ought to address really, is perhaps they have, is the fact that we thought that Facebook was penalising you if you used automated tools like that.
Yes,
and I'm you know, but she says that, you know, the using Meet Edgar doubles most people's traffic. So I don't know. I'm sort of on the fence. I'm very loath to sign up for any more software. I totted up the other day what I spend a month in software, various software as a service things, and it's all a little bit too much for me now. But I can't see where I could trim it back. That's the annoying thing.
Yeah, I have much the same thing. I think the thing you're right in that Facebook deprioritizes stuff that's being shared automatically. My view on it is if you're not going to do it anyway because you haven't got the time or the process set up to do it manually or whatever, then, you know, something's better than nothing.
Yeah, very true.
I mean, I do a lot of engaging on Facebook personally, but I also do use tools to share to it so that that's consistently happening regardless of, you know, what I'm up to at any given time, sort of thing. But as you say, you do end up, I mean, I use I use Hootsuite Buffer and Meet Edgar at the moment, so perhaps I should pare it down.
Well, I never got on with Hootsuite. I just don't like the environment, and I did like Meet Edgar, but mainly because it shares old blog posts.
Yes,
it brings
exactly.
it brings extra value out of your old blog posts. But yeah, there has been some funny incidents where you can go horribly wrong with your Meet Edgar library, can't you? You can fill it up with junk, and then you can end up sending the wrong stuff out to the wrong account.
It's also with both of those, I think, firstly, you've got to commit to it. Like we said at the beginning, if you've invested in it, you've got to keep adding content to it, which I have on my to-do list on a regular basis. Otherwise, what's the point? And secondly, I think when there's like major disasters in the world, you have to go in and stop things happening. And one of the two, I think it's Meet Edgar, has a pause button, which makes it really easy. But I don't think Buffer's quite as easy with that. But
yeah. Cool. Well, so anyway, but I thought she was a very inspirational person, and she talks, in this video, she talks a lot about how she grew Meet Edgar. So that would be of interest to anyone online, really. So
absolutely, and it could have been us, Nicola.
It could have been us. I've always really fancied having a software as a service. In fact, funny enough, my first foray into internet marketing back in 1998 was with a website called artistmanager.com that matched up aspiring music industry hopefuls with managers globally. Yeah. And looking back on it, that's software as a service, isn't it? Because you have to subscribe to it to use it. Wish I'd never let that. My brushings with the DJ this week has made me think, I wish I'd never let that one go as a domain name. Good stuff. Thank you very much for being with me today. It's been really highly enjoyable. Just remind everyone where they can find you again.
The easiest place is powertolivemore.com, or just do Google Jo Dodds.
Jo Dodds. Thank you very much, Jo. See you soon.
Thanks, Nicola.
Bye. You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.